Mark, so great to meet you. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Pleasure.
For people who aren't familiar with Shazam and your character, Dr. Sivana, maybe you can give us a bit of a brief introduction and why you wanted to play this character.
Thaddeus Bodog Sivana, to give him his full title. God knows where that middle name came from, but it's apparently the one that they gave him. Comes from the 1939 comic, the original. I think he was the very first nemesis of Shazam, the boy who, when he says Shazam, becomes the superhero. And he's the new 52 version at the moment, rather than the original mad scientist who goes to Venus because he feels misunderstood. Our guy's a little more brutal and has the 7 sins at his disposal, so his power is pretty intense.
And how did you go about preparing to play this role? Because there's, I think, a lot in your physicality. In a film that's kind of full of humour, you have to bring something genuinely quite terrifying along with these 7 sins that you have around you. So how did you go about preparing, both in terms of reading the comics, but then also in preparing yourself physically?
Well, I did the research, obviously, and the internet yields up plenty. So I knew who the character was, I knew the comic that he came from. I've played a lot of villains in my time, and I kind of know how to access what's required. And also these films, you know, it's good versus evil. So as much fun as they were having with the good guys and as much humour as they were injecting, I had to basically do the converse. And Dave Sandberg, the director, and I sat down and we kind of realised we've got to make him scary. And Dave comes from the world of horror. Those are the films that he's done. So it serves the villain plot really well because he doesn't shirk away from making him really scary.
And you're having to do some, you know, pretty epic scenes, fight scenes, flying. Did you have any particular highlights or real challenges on set?
I mean, when you're suspended from your hips on a wire on the end of a scaffolding pole, holding on to Zachary Levi, and you're spinning round in a circle while also rotating, both of you, while grabbing hold of each other and trying to punch each other and him trying to rip my eye out. It's pretty tricky. You have to be quite acrobatic and have a bit of stamina. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of flying fighting that was, you know, it's not as easy as it looks.
And how was it working with Zachary? I mean, he seems to bring, you know, he really channels like his 14-year-old self, I think, into that role. But you definitely play off each other really well. And then there's this incredible array of child actors as well, not least Jack. So how was it working with this cast?
Well, Zach will be the first to admit he's a big kid. He doesn't need to channel his 14-year-old because he is 14 and basically he's perfect for the part. And the kids were all incredible. I mean, I'm constantly amazed by these young guys and girls, how accomplished they are on set. And I've often been asked the question, you know, what wisdom did you impart? And they don't need my wisdom. They're already really great little performers. And I think that the performances they all give in this are really pretty amazing.
We've seen a lot of comic books put on the big screen, but I feel like this one's maybe goes against the grain a little bit. There's something slightly less conventional about it. It's a sort of a coming-of-age story in there. There's lots of family issues that come out through the foster home and some of life's difficulties that some of these kids are facing. So, you know, what do you think are some of the themes that come out of it, and how do you think this film is set apart from some other comic book films?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It has themes, you know, underlying themes. It's not just good versus evil and a big fight at the end and colourful costumes and characters. I mean, it has all of that. But what I liked about it is it's really satisfying as a film, let alone a superhero film, because it does ask those questions in the middle of the film. You know, where do we belong? Who is our real family? It's ironic that the young Thaddeus chooses the dark side despite coming from the so-called successful family. And yet Billy Batson, whose mother deserted him, is the guy that chooses the good side. It's just asking you to think about, I suppose, life choices, and that's quite rare.
And we actually, in the end, do have some empathy, even though you do play this villain. So maybe that's an important thing to take away from your character.
Do you have empathy? That's really good to hear, because I thought he was unremittingly evil. But it's great that there is some element of his backstory, so that even if you don't agree with what he does, at least you can maybe understand it.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks so much for your time, and congratulations on a wonderful film.
Thank you.
Thanks.